Today we will introduce you to the beautiful asters and goldenrods that we see along our roadsides, fields, and trails during the early fall. Our focus is within the University of Waterloo campus and nearby woodlots. Asters and goldenrods are difficult to identify if you don't know what you're looking for. With the right field guide and understanding the terminology, you can successfully identify these plants. In this video, we'll go over those aspects to help you with your ID. Newcomb's Wildflower Guide is a popular field guide that has a section at the back dedicated to asters and goldenrods. Dr. John Semple's Cultivated and Native Asters of Ontario and his Goldenrods of Ontario are really the two go-to guides for successful ID. These are available for loan in the Ecology lab. When we look at asters and goldenrods, it is important to understand what features we are looking at. So I'd like to go over a few of those terms that you will see when trying to identify asters and goldenrods. Looking at this close-up of an aster plant, for example, although these look like individual flower petals, these are what we define as individual ray florets. Each petal-like feature here is a single flower, known as a ray floret. In the middle are the disc flowers, or what we call disc florets. This example represents dozens of ray and disc florets. An aster or goldenrod can have anywhere between 20 to 80 ray and disc florets. This collective makes up one flower head, or what is known as the capitulum. Numerous capitulum are known as capitula. Several capitula arranged on the stem are known as the capitulescence. You will want to look at the capitulescence and how it is arranged and where it is located on the plant. In this example, it is at the terminal of the stem. Next, we want to look at the underside of the capitulum, and this green plant material here is known as the involucre. Examining the involucre will help in determining the species of your aster or goldenrod, because features of the involucre will look different from one species to another. In this plant, you can see green scaly features known as the filaries. The filaries may have a green tip, an elongated area, they may be light in color, there may be a mid-vein or a spine through the filary. In this example, you will notice the green tip on the filary, and this is also known as the chlorophyllous zone. Here we have a goldenrod species. Referring to the terminology we just covered with this previous species example, what you can see are numerous flower heads, with each flower as an individual capitulum, but all together they are the capitula that make up the capitulescence. It is that capitulescence that you want to look at to determine how it is arranged on the stem. In this case, it is along one side of the stem, as we don't see growth on both sides. As well, you'll want to use a hand magnifier to examine the involucre and focus on what the filaries look like, specifically the shape, mid-vein, and chlorophyllous zone. These features will help you determine what species of goldenrod this is. The leaves of both asters and goldenrods will also help with identifying down to species. Plants may have heart-shaped leaves or narrow lance-shaped leaves. Leaves may have petioles. Others are sessile and may clasp at the stem. Leaves may be hairy or glabrous, meaning smooth. The stem can also be hairy or glabrous. And as well, be sure to look at the base of the plant, as basal leaves may be present or absent and also vary in shape from the cauline leaves. Focusing on the Asters species, we will demonstrate how to compare similar looking species and provide an overview of common Asters species we see in Waterloo region. Here are two species of Asters, commonly confused as the same species, but I will point out how they are different. The one on the left is known as the frost aster, or Symphyiotrichum pilosum, and the aster on the right is the heath aster, Symphyiotrichum ericoides. Now let's take a closer look at their features. The frost aster has white ray florets and bright yellow discs, more so than the heath aster. As well, the filiary tips of the frost aster have green spines or the midvein. The stems and leaves will have these fine spreading hairs, hence the name pilose. They stick straight out at a 90-degree angle. You will notice the lance-shaped linear leaves as well on the frost aster. And without magnification, you can see the obvious hairs on the stems and leaves. Overall, very pilose. The heath aster, Symphyiotrichum ericoides, looks similar to the frost aster. However, notice the numerous flower heads, these small white ray florets and yellow discs, which are not nearly as vibrant as the frost aster. There are numerous dense, short leaves, quite reduced, along the stem, giving the name heath aster. So think about the Scottish landscape where you see heaths and heathers. Taking a look at the underside of the heath aster, you will notice the filaries have a dark diamond-shaped chlorophyllous zone and a white spine tip. Here is another overview of the ray and disc florets. The stem has fine hairs, but you will notice they are oppressed up against the stem, reflexing back to the stem, so they do not stick straight out like the hairs of the frost aster. Here is another common aster found along our roadsides, fields, and sunny locales in Waterloo region. This is the tall white or panicled aster. The scientific name is Symphyiotrichum lanceolatum. The rays are white, discs are yellow, that become purple as the fall progresses. Note the disc florets sit above the rest of the capitulum, almost bushy in appearance, so they are not inset when compared to other aster species. Looking at the involucre, you will notice there is a chlorophyllous zone about midway up in the spine. Looking at the overall plant, it is a tall and upright plant. The stems are smooth, but not waxy. Sometimes they are red or purple striped, but what's indicative of this panicled aster are these older brown leaves closer to the bottom of the plant, and notice how they tend to twist and spiral. The leaves are linear, lanceolate, and somewhat rough. There are only a few species of asters in Waterloo region that have purple ray florets, and the ray florets will be anywhere from a light purple to a dark purple. The aster on the left is the New England aster, or Symphyiotrichum novae Angliae. Notice the long, deep purple ray florets. When rubbed or bruised, they have a beautiful citrus scent. The discs are yellow that change to an orange, and here we already see they have turned almost a burnt orange in appearance. The leaves of the New England aster strongly clasp around the stem and are sessile, meaning there is no petiole, which is the leaf stalk. The leaves and stem are densely pubescent. This is the purple-stemmed aster, also known as the swamp aster. The scientific name is Symphyiotrichum puniceum. Unlike the New England aster, the ray florets are a lighter purple in color, almost like a light blue, and not as a deep purple as the New England aster. When bruised, they do not have a citrus scent. The stems are often purplish and hairy, even reddish, as you can see here, and uniformly bristled along the entire stem. This plant is not as fuzzy as the New England aster. The leaves are also fuzzy and clasp against the stem, but do not clasp as much as the New England aster. Focusing on the capitulescence, you will notice the filaries are spread out and not oppressed or inset into the capitulum, almost giving it a shaggy appearance. This plant is found in moist areas like wetlands and fens. Here we have the azure aster, or Symphotrichum ulentangiens. A beautiful aster. It is light blue to lavender, almost a sky blue in appearance. The aster is an erect plant with few leaves on the stems. The upper stem leaves are sessile, and note the fleshy material on the leaf stalk. So this is what we call a winged petiole. The leaves are scabrous or rough to the touch. There are basal leaves that appear elongated and heart-shaped. There is a diamond-shaped chlorophyllous tip of the filary and the darkened spine. The involucre is also scabrous and rough. Here we have the calico aster, or Symphotrichum laterifolium. This aster is aptly named because of its multi-tone disc florets that quickly turn a pink-purple and deeper in color overall, which is unique when compared to other asters. Think of the term calico, like a calico cat that has two different eye colors. Well, these are different colored disc florets. There will be florets in the axils of the leaves as well. Notice the lateral spreading stems that are long and can be sparsely to densely pubescent. The chlorophyllous zone is dark with the mid-series filary. The aster thrives in more shady and forested habitats. The arrow-leaved aster, or Symphotrichum europhyllum, is the next plant we will take a look at. The ray florets are white. Notice how the disc florets protrude, almost bushy in appearance, and they are typically pale yellow, fading to a pink purple. Notice the filaries have a green chlorophyllous tip, and they are oppressed along that involucre. The leaves are toothed, cordate, or the heart shape, and feel somewhat rough. Notice the winged petiole, a distinguishing feature of this aster. The branching of this plant is noticeable along a 30-degree angle, and it is an ascending, tall, upright plant. The large-leaved aster, or Eurybia macrophylla, has relatively few ray florets. There are long rays that are light purple to a light blue. This plant flowers early, and overall the florets look spindly. Notice the corium arrangement of the capitulescence. The filaries have glandular hairs that you can see with a hand lens or microscope, and the overall appearance of this plant is a matte forming arrangement along the forest edges and woodlots. Note the large heart-shaped basal leaves that are rough to the touch. The leaves on the upper stem may be somewhat clasping and are sessile. There is a dark chlorophyllous zone, darkest at the tip, and the peduncles are densely pubescent, usually glandular too. The filaries may have a purple tinge as well. So a common shade-tolerant plant found in our woodlots. There are many species of goldenrods in Waterloo region, found in sunny field and roadside locales, but also shady wooded areas. When we identify goldenrods, we want to look at the capitulescence and its position. For example, are they on one side of the branch only, at the end of the stem, in a pyramidal shape, in the axils of the leaves, or in small clusters? Looking at this goldenrod, notice the capitulescence are pyramidal at the end or terminal of the stem. However, the heads are also along one side of the stem. This is a gray goldenrod or Solidago numeralis. The stem is hairy and will be grayish in color. It is a small goldenrod, meaning that it will not grow to more than 1 meter in height. The leaves are linear in shape, tapering at the base. Notice the leaf veins. They are not triple nerved or have those 3 strong veins as we see in other goldenrod species. When we zoom in on the capitula, notice the filaries have a dark chlorophyllous zone. There are only 2 species of goldenrods in our area where the capitulescence is situated along the stem, also known as axillary capitulescence. The blue stem goldenrod or Solidago acacia have small capitula along the stem and in the axils of the leaves. The stem is glaucous, meaning not fuzzy. You will not find any hairs. There's a bluish tinge, almost waxy stem that you can scrape off. The blue stem goldenrod has linear toothed leaves. Notice filaries have a dark chlorophyllous zone and there is this distinct white spine. It is common in woodlands and dry forests. The goldenrod on the right, notice the capitulescence are in the axils of those leaves, and the leaves are larger, ovate, sharply toothed, more so than that blue stem goldenrod. Notice the dark filaries of the chlorophyllous zone. This is a zigzag goldenrod or Solidago flexicalis. It is a shade-tolerant plant that can be found in moist forests and woodlots. Here we have a different looking goldenrod. Notice the flat-topped capitulescence with smaller flower heads. This is a grass-leaved goldenrod or Euthamia graminifolia. Notice the grass-like narrow, slender leaves that give its name, along with parallel veins, similar to a blade of grass. The capitula are in tight clusters at the end of the stem, at the terminal. You will see anywhere between 20 to 40 capitula that make up the capitulescence. They are sessile. The leaves of this grass-leaf goldenrod have a light citrus scent, and you may find black spots on these leaves as well, which is indicative of this goldenrod. The filaries have a green chlorophyllous zone at the tip with a white spine. The stiff-leaf goldenrod, or Solidago rigida, is visually different compared to other goldenrod species. Notice the leaves. They are wider, more oval or ovate, with one central vein and a blunt tip. The basal leaves taper to a very long petiole, where both the leaves and stems are quite fuzzy or densely pubescent. The involucre is large compared with other goldenrod species. This plant thrives in sunny, dry prairie habitats and is a rare species in southern Ontario. Examining the Canada goldenrod, or Solidago canadensis, notice the pyramidal capitulescence. The involucre is very small, 3 millimeters in length. The filary has a dark chlorophyllous zone right at the tip and does not extend the full length. The leaves tend to be largest about halfway down the plant. There are 3 strong veins on the leaf, which split about a third of the way up the leaf. They are somewhat rough to the touch and toothed. The stems of the Canada goldenrod are pubescent but not all the way to the base. This is a very common roadside goldenrod in our region and thrives in many habitats. The early goldenrod, or Solidago juncea, is one of the first goldenrods to flower. This particular plant that we are examining today has already finished for the season. The capitulescence nods somewhat and is pyramidal in shape. Notice the capitulescence and how it spreads out or diverges, then recurves, almost like it's drooping. The upper stem leaves are reduced as you move upwards, becoming linear lanceolate. The leaves are entire and sessile. There are axillary tufts along the lateral branch leaves. There will be large basal leaves up to 30 centimeters away that surround the main plant stem, arranged as a rosette.